Welcome back to the Save the Good Girl podcast. I am so excited to do this episode because I feel like whether you are in a relationship or not, or seeking to be in a relationship, I think you can find value in this particular episode where we are going to talk about what does a healthy relationship look like to you? And not just talking about the traits and characteristics that we need, but go a little deeper to understand where those traits and characteristics come from. So it's going to be a really good episode. I am so excited. I feel like I needed this episode 10 years ago. So hopefully, based on this episode, it will help you understand things a little bit more clearly. I am excited. Let's get into it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Have a seat. Okay, this is going to be a really, really good and hopefully enlightening episode, wherever you are, whatever phase you are in your life when it comes to relationships. We are talking about relationships and how to understand what does a relationship look like to us in order for us to either troubleshoot a relationship we're currently in or to guide us when we actually get into the relationship to have a sustained one that lasts, because listen, I am not going to say that I'm not a relationship guru. I'm not I'm not I don't do like couples therapy or anything like that. I have the gift of taking in information, bringing it to my brain and like shooting things out based on what I'm hearing and connecting the dots. So I'm a connecting the dots type of girl. And I've had multiple conversations with people. I've been exposed, like if you're exposed to something, although you don't have it, you see what it's like. And I've been exposed to marriages and I've been exposed to people who have been divorced. And we're going to talk about that later on in the episode and kind of like what led them to get divorced. And speaking of divorce, according to the Huffington Post, the number one reason couples decide to split and get divorced is due to communication problems. Number one, communication problems. Of course, there's like infidelity, there's abuse, there's drug, alcohol abuse, there's physical appearance, there's a whole list of things. Number one is communication. Communication has been the number one reason why people get divorced, I think, for years. I think like from the beginning of time. And friction comes when our communication is not clear. That's what I think. I believe that friction comes with not knowing what we need. How can you deliver a message to your partner if you don't know yourself what you need? How can you deliver a message to your partner if you never made a particular issue that is so important to you, you never highlighted that to them? So now here you are 5 years later, 10 years later, and you're complaining about things that this person never did or etc. Now, again, there's thousands of ways you can look at why people have communication issues, thousands of reasons. But we really need to understand that with communication is not as easy as people think. Like, it's really not. It really starts with the individual first. And it's like vital for us to expose ourselves to get to the core of what we want in order to communicate towards a solution. You need to identify what you want and what you need. Give your partner the chance to love you the right way, or they need to dismiss themselves. But in order for them to love you the right way, keyword, the right way, not the way TV wants, not the way your family wants, not the way your friends want, not the way you see it in your mind, but to actually love you the right way, you need to give them the opportunity to do that. And what does that mean? You cannot give someone a test and you don't give them anything to work with. You didn't give them the lesson plan. You didn't give them a notebook. You didn't give them a textbook. But here you are saying, you know what, today, I need you to take a 1,000 question exam. And if you don't pass, now I'm going to be mad because you should know. No. To a certain extent, your partner, yes, like they can watch you and learn certain things as you go. But I do believe that it's also our responsibility to inform our partner what we need based on a couple of things. And I feel like there's 5 things that I think that really helps develops our wants and needs. And I really thought about this and wrote them all down. And the first one I think is our past experiences in our childhood. So the pain that you've experienced in your past, the things that you lacked in your past, the things that you've seen from your family or your friends, maybe not seeing a healthy relationship when you were a young child, maybe you did see a relationship that was healthy as a young child, maybe having parents who are married but not really married in terms of like married on paper, but they don't have a marriage. It's not a loving, fulfilling marriage. Maybe you have witnessed domestic abuse in your household. Maybe you have witnessed alcohol abuse. Maybe you have witnessed infidelities. Maybe you have witnessed seeing your parents celebrate 20 years of marriage. Maybe you have witnessed seeing your parents or family members, break up and get back together. I don't know, but I do know that what you have witnessed in your past, in your childhood, really helps shape what you believe in for relationships as a whole. And I think as we become adults, we try to like, oh, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. It's there. It's unresolved issues that we never talked about. And I feel like you act out how you feel. So although you may feel like you don't care, you will show it through your actions and that will seep into your partner. And it's so important to expose those feelings in order to not have your partner having to deal with all of this work on their own, but rather working together, right? So that's number one. Number two, what do we see in our interpretation of that? So it's not about like seeing a beautiful marriage. What is your interpretation? For example, if you believe that all men cheat and all men are dogs, then when you get into a relationship, you're going to have an immediate trust issue because you believe that all men cheat and all men are dogs. So you're not even giving whoever comes into your life a fair chance to prove you wrong at all because your mindset is that. And I truly believe that if you continuously harbor on those thoughts, you are going to get a man that's cheating or a dog because you keep telling the universe, this is what you expect. So this is what you're going to get. That's just the facts, right? Number three, what we believe to be true. Okay. What we believe to be true. If you truly believe in your heart that all men are dogs, then how can someone that comes in really help facilitate or change that in your mind? That's really embedded in you, right? So in addition to what we see and how we interpret it, it's also what do we actually believe? Like what is in our core? And our belief system cannot be changed by anyone but us. You can be inspired. You can be enlightened. You can watch videos all day and night. You can listen to this podcast 1,000 times, but it's really your belief system that's going to drive your actions. Number four, our insecurities. Our insecurities really guides our wants and needs from our partner. If you were in a situation that you were neglected, whether it was from your partner, whether it was in your childhood or etc., because of that fear of not wanting to get neglected again, you may have a need of being excessively like this person has to be excessively on you because you don't want to feel that again. Or maybe somebody didn't really make you a priority, so now you want the person to make you a priority, but if they don't do this every second of the day, that's going to trigger you and therefore affect how you communicate with that person. So our insecurities really plays a part in that, how we feel about ourselves. Because let's say you go to dinner and you feel like you're not pretty or whatever the case is. You go to dinner with your partner and he's sitting there with you enjoying the dinner. The waitress comes, hi, can I help you? Oh, she's too friendly. She's too friendly. Why she said hi like that? She ain't got to say hi to you like that. Sis, she's being courteous. She's doing her job. She wants a tip. Okay? She don't want your man. Relax. And we've seen situations like that where girls go a little too hard. And for me, I already know, like, okay, she's insecure. It's so crazy because I have been insecure. So I can spot it. I can spot it like no one's business. I'm telling you, I can smell it like no one's business. Okay. So our insecurities also affects our wants and needs. And the last thing that I have is our growth. Your growth process affects your wants and needs. You are not the same person you were when you were 21. At least I don't know. I don't think. I know for me, I'm not. When I was 21 years old, my expectations of a man was quite limited. Um, he was cute. He was fun. Yeah, he could have went to school. And I wanted to talk about our future and stuff like that, but at 21 I wasn't thinking about having kids or getting married, so the future stuff wasn't as deep. I just wanted to be in a relationship with someone that was gonna be nice, and we hung out, and that was my boo. That's it. But as you progress in life, things start to change, and shit is real. Like, you talking about bills, you're talking about investing, you're talking about where do you want to live, you're talking about kids and how do you want to raise them, you're talking about your career, you're talking about dating overall. Like, how do I start dating again? Like, there's a lot of different aspects that happens due to growth. There's also a lot of things that happens when you not grow, like when you're not growing as well. So growth or not growing also affects that. So the 5 things that I came up with were our past experiences based on what we saw in our past relationships or also in our childhood, what we see and how we interpret that, what we believe to be true, the insecurities that we have and maybe did not resolve, and our growth. How do we actually feel about our growth? Like, are we understanding that, hey, we are growing? And the thing is, if you have experienced a childhood or maybe your past experiences where it was not the best, I don't know your story. I know that pain is universal. So, you know, it doesn't matter what type of life you had versus me versus that. Pain is universal. It is very, very universal. And there's 2 things you can do to combat that. You either overcome it or you become it. Yes, maybe as in your childhood, for example, maybe you did not see the perfect example of a really great marriage. Maybe your father wasn't there. Maybe your mother wasn't there. There could be a lot of different things that can affect that. You can either overcome it by not being what you saw. So due to the fact that you didn't have that figure in your life, when you have your kids, you know that you want to be there for them 100%, or you literally become exactly what you despised your entire life. That's the cycle. It's crazy because you've been through so much pain, you've hated this, and you become just like what you've seen because unconsciously that has become normal to you. This is where extended help will assist, as in therapy, as in talking to people about this, as in being vulnerable so that you can break that cycle within yourself. When they talk about breaking generational curses, like literally, that's what that is. You want to give your partner a fair chance to love you the right way. Love you the right way, not love you and like, oh, you're so pretty. No, but really give you a customized love. A customized love. And the only way they can do that is if you know yourself. If you know who you are, if you let your partner define who you are, there will definitely be problems because you did not reciprocate understanding you first. You went straight to the other partner, and that's not going to help you in the relationship in the long run. And here's the thing. This episode is really talking about what does a healthy relationship look like for you in order for the relationship to be sustained and last. I have a really great example because my parents have been together for over 30 years and I've seen what a relationship and a healthy marriage should look like. I've been exposed. I've been exposed. So my interpretation of marriage, my expectations and what I want is definitely stemming from what I've seen. And it can go either way. It can go both ways. So you want to make sure that when you do understand what you want and you can have the customized love, that you know that your partner is going to not just look at you and be like, okay, well, you figure it out, but you guys can work together. They can fight with you. And also when you think about all these things, like, well, I got all of this baggage. I'm going to do a whole episode about baggage. I have a lot to say about baggage, but we have all these ideas and thoughts in our minds that this person is not going to care about us because we have baggage. Meanwhile, you tell them all these things. They're like, okay, so I still love you. And you're like, what? Like, did you hear what I just said? Like, I've been through some shit. And you know why? Do you know why that happens? That happens because that person saw you for you. They didn't give a fuck about your past. They didn't care about your situations. They didn't care about your insecurities. They didn't care about what was going on. They saw something in you for you, not your exterior, but what was happening internally. And it's very, very comforting to have that type of customized love that I'm talking about. But it's vital for us to expose ourselves in order to communicate what we want towards a solution. It's vital that we identify how do we get to the wants and needs. We're going to get into the wants and needs, but how do we get there? Where did the wants and needs come from? How were they formed? I think that that's really, really important. And I think people go straight into the traits. And that's nice, but we need to identify that. And then once we identify our wants and needs, I think it's a great idea to write it down. I think it's great to write it down. I think it's great to write down what you want in a partner, what you expect, etc. I think it's great to go to therapy to investigate your deeper emotions that you have held on to so long. I think it's great to investigate your past behaviors and why did you allow certain things versus not. I think it's important to, again, truly investigate where did these thoughts come from. So now that we know that we need to investigate those thoughts, let's get into how do we then communicate what we really want from our partner. We will get back to this fabulous episode, but I just wanted to let you know that you can find Save the Good Girl on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube. There is also a chance for you to be featured on the show. Check out the link in the description to send me a voice message. In addition to the podcast, did you know that Save the Good Girl has a blog? Be a part of VIP by subscribing to the email list on SaveTheGoodGirl.com. So many options to stay connected. All right, let's get back to the episode. I've gotten some feedback on the music that I play when I go to the next topic, and it's been really great. So, like I have my whole coffee theme. Like we're having a nice conversation. It's nice and chill. So I have to set the vibe for you guys. So I'm happy that you guys are liking the music. Please continue to let me know your feedback. I love, 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 love hearing them. So now that we have identified that what we want and what we need derives from something. It's not just, I want this, I need this. It comes from something. So we discussed the 5 places where this could come from. And now we need to understand how to communicate what a healthy relationship looks like to us. I've actually had the opportunity to talk to people who are married and happy. And I love asking them, how did you know this person was the one for you? Like, what was it? Like, you've dated all these people, you've been through all these things. Like, how did you choose this person to develop a life with, to grow with, to get married, to have children with, to be with, to be in a relationship with? And then I've also met people who are divorced, and I want to know what happened. But wait, why did I say it like that? Because I said that sounds very like I want the tea. I don't want the tea. I want to know what happened, because it's like, how did you get to a place of final destination of I'm done? I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. What happened, right? There's, again, many reasons why that can happen, but I'm focusing on the communication part. And the people that I have spoken to who were divorced, the theme that I've seen to be the same was the fact that they felt like they didn't know who they married. They did not know certain things about their partner, and there were certain issues with the communication that they just felt like it wasn't going to work because they believe strongly in this and I believe strongly in that. And I'm just like, wow. So did you guys have the conversation, or maybe you did and then the person grew and they changed their mind? I mean, we can tackle this many ways, but I feel like based on that conversation, I figured out a formula. I think it's really important to have a conversation with your partner, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever, your husband, your wife, and you sit down with them. So what does a husband look like to you? As in the man, right? So let me give you an example. I will sit down with my man and I would say, what does a husband look like to you? Now, this is if we're on the verge of marriage, okay? What does a husband look like to you? And I can tell him, what does a husband look like to me? And once we have that conversation, we'll see where we are connected. And then we can also see where we have alignment issues, okay? Based on those issues, we can now discuss it to see where do we go from here. I don't like to look at my partner as a task. I think a lot of times, when people talk about their relationships, right? More so with women, I got to go home. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got my man. Like, it's like a thing on the list. And I get it to a certain extent. Yeah, that it could be like that. But for me, I want to be a task force. I want us to tackle these issues together. I want to know that we have some resolve, because if you feel strongly in something and I really don't, and that could make or break the relationship, then yeah, maybe marriage is not the way we should be headed. So I think sometimes, not all the time, sometimes we get so stuck into the honeymoon phase. And, in the honeymoon phase, what could go wrong in the honeymoon phase? You are so happy. This person is just making you so happy. I mean, they're everything you thought about. There's nothing that they could do wrong. They burp and you're like, oh, that was such a beautiful burp, like nothing they could do could be wrong. So it's like, after the honeymoon phase is like slightly fading, you do want to have these conversations. You want to understand, like, what are the characteristics that you need? So, for example, if my man is telling me, well, a wife to me is someone who's going to stay home because I believe that I, as a man, should go to work and provide for the family. I do not want my kids to go to daycare. I do not want my kids to do any of those things. Like, I would prefer that my wife is home and take care of the household and she has nothing to worry about and she can pay the bills. Now, if you are okay with that, phenomenal. Good for you. You have found your alignment. This is your man. This is your boo. But if you're not okay with that, you can't say, yeah, I agree. And then when things really start to happen, you're like, oh, no, I can't. I need to work. I have my own goals. I have my own dreams. It's so important to note what those goals and what those dreams are. How do you feel about family? That's important to me. How do you feel about my friends? My friends are my angels. I have said this. They have been there through me through so many different things. And I'm not saying I'm going to choose my friends over my man or my man. I'm not believing in that. I believe that you can have a healthy marriage and still have your family and still have your friends. Other people choose to do other things. That's their business. For me, family is important to me. My friends are important to me. How do you feel about me going on vacation with my friends? Some people are in marriages and they don't agree with that. They feel like, nope, I don't want you going on any girls trips. Excuse me? Because when I got my passport, my dude, like, you weren't there. Okay, so I'm gonna go. But yeah, no, but we need to talk about that. We need to talk about these things, because this is what ends up being friction. This is what causes issues, and you feel like you're constricted. However, if you also believe that your partner shouldn't go on boys trips and you shouldn't go on girls trips, guess what? You're aligned. Good for you. Good for you. But you need to know what your expectations are. When you see your partner, what do you see? What is it that you truly need based on your past, based on your insecurities, based on you and your development? What does support look like to you? Does that mean calling you all the time? Does that mean, like, what does that look like to you? What does support mean? Because I think that basically when you're having these conversations, what does support look like to you, baby? Support to me is when I come from work, my food is ready and da da da. And the person could say, well, support to me is someone who's going to call. I don't know. But the point is, what does support look like to you? Then you have to communicate daddy issues, but nobody really talks about mommy issues and how mommy issues really affect these men and their interpretation of women and what they need, because they were unable to have that nurturing love from the first woman of their life. I've dealt with a man that had mommy issues before, and his interpretation and how he is and his expectations are different based off of that. So, you need to understand daddy issues. You need to understand mommy issues. You need to understand communication, right? I am not okay if I'm dating someone and you don't talk to me for like 4 days. Nope. No. Some people may be fine with that. I don't like it. So my partner needs to know, like, you don't need to be on me like all day, every day, but I do appreciate a check-in. So if you appreciate a check-in, you need to communicate that. You need to communicate. How do you feel about kids? How do you feel about money? Where are you with your debt? Do you feel like I should buy whatever I want because it's my money? Do you believe in a savings account? Does your partner believe in this in a savings account? Do you want to live in an apartment or do you want to live in a house? Do you want to live in New York or do you want to live in Cali? Like, what does marriage, what does a relationship, what do these things mean to you? What do these things mean to your partner? Find the common ground. And anywhere there's a little discrepancy, you're like, oh, I didn't know that, babe. Let's talk about it. Then you can explore. Then you can become a task force to troubleshoot these issues or walk away. I mean, literally, right? So there's certain non-negotiables. I am not going to entertain someone who does not believe in God. Absolutely not. And that's me. My faith in him is too strong for me to ever deny him. This is not no Judas shit. Sorry, I didn't mean to curse with. You get what I'm saying? Like, you get what I'm saying? But yeah, I cannot be in a situation with someone who doesn't like believe in God. I can't. You know, I want someone who's going to support me, and I want someone who's going to understand that I am going to grow and my mind may change, and I will understand that for him as well. In addition to knowing all the traits that we want and the things that we need, we also need to be aware that growth is not universal. I talked about that with my open door policy episode. It's not. Your man and you, although you guys are married and in sync and it's beautiful, you're not going to grow the same. You're not. So are you going to be patient and understanding that you may not be aligned all the time? But what are you going to do in that moment? Are you going to run away and be like, I can't do this? Or are you going to explore it? That also is defines what does a relationship look like to you? How hard do you believe you should work for a relationship before you give up? These are really, really important questions to ask. And again, I'm not saying that I'm going to save the world. I do believe that if we challenge ourselves and we ask the right questions, it can really help us understand where we truly stand with our partners and help us understand, is this really going to work for the long haul? Because it may be cute right now, but what about 10, 20 years from now? Can you actually deal with certain things? So you need to know your expectations. You need to truly know your expectations. But before you know your expectations, you need to know yourself. You need to know where these expectations are coming from. Are they realistic? And is your partner willing to work with you? You have to get deep to know the truth. And then you have to get deep to also handle the truth of whether, you know what, we've had really great conversations, and I think this is going to work because we've come to this conclusion, or, you know what, this is not for me. So really taking the time to understand and explain to your partner, explain to yourself of what a healthy relationship looks like to you. And once you find that, drive it, go with it, and just keep it moving. And if that person does not fit your description in terms of certain things that are non-negotiable, you may have to move on. But you also need to believe that the person that comes around the next time will be there for you, or you may just have to troubleshoot and talk to your man and deliver the message a different way. And that could also save your relationship. It really, really starts with understanding you, and also understanding what you want and understanding how to communicate your understanding to your partner. Yeah. I know that was a lot, but I really wanted to. I think I've discovered that as I was speaking to a lot of people, and I realized that many people really don't know what they want. They say they know what they want, but they don't. And I feel like happiness has now become a trend and happiness has been fast tracked. And what I mean by that is people are now getting married because other people are getting married. You know, they feel like they want to have the wedding, they want to have their babies, they're rushing against time. I'm getting older and I want this and I want this and I want that. And I feel like when you do things like that, you are taking away the authenticity of what love is supposed to be. And I think when that happens as well, because you are rushing against time, we are missing certain conversations. We are missing certain, discussions and solutions because of the fact that we're rushing against time. And we just want to prove to ourselves and to others that I'm married and I have this or I have that, or I'm in a relationship and I'm not single, and etc. We're going to talk about a whole episode about being single. I'm going to get there. But I did want to talk about this because there's so many things like the 5 love languages, and they have all these steps and all these books and all these things. And I truly think that, I have nothing against the love language. I think it's nice, but I feel like there's so much more to that. What if you encompass all of them? You know what I'm saying? Again, based on your past and etc. And it's like, you need to know, what does love look like? What does love look like to you? Is it what you saw on TV? Does the guy have to walk, be on a horse, or, like, what does that look like to you? I realized that unfortunately, love has become very conditional. Love is not unconditional. People say that it is, but it's not. Because people love you until you're too broke. I love you until you're too sick. I love you until you're too depressed. I love you until you are too mean. I love you until you are too successful, right? And they don't know how to deal with the excess, whatever that is. And then, it becomes conditional. Unconditional love is what I've seen. A healthy marriage is what I've seen. Having someone who is going to be there for you if you are sick and wipe your shit and be there for you no matter what, and support you no matter what emotional space you're in, what you're dealing with, what you're going through, and not leaving you alone for you to figure it out, but for them to be a partner, to be an anchor with you, to figure it out together. Someone that, if you are in a financial bind and you don't know what to do, you don't feel alone. Someone that can pray with you to conquer whatever you're dealing with. Because I do believe prayer conquers all. And I do believe a power couple is a prayerful couple. So how hard are you willing to work? I need to know. How hard are you willing to work? What does hard work actually look like to you? What does that mean when you say, oh, being in a relationship is hard work? What does that mean? Like, I feel like it needs to be defined to like the most minute and minuscule detail ever. Like, it needs to be defined. I'm talking about like an atom cell defined, to understand, what does that look like to you? What is your happiness based off of? And I feel like people, again, they're focused on the wedding and they don't really think about the marriage and what that really entails. You do need to understand, if you are on the path of wanting to have children, your children will grow up and they're not going to want nothing to do with you, especially when they're in their teen years and their early 20s. And you have to deal with your partner. And the question is, when your kids grow up, if you decide to have children, will you still like this person? Will you still have fun with this person? Do you know how much joy it brings me when I see older couples like having fun, laughing, joking around with each other? Like, they are best friends. So for me, my expectation is for my partner to be my best friend. I want to talk to you. I want to tell you everything. I want to be able to share my fears with you. I want to talk about my goals with you. I want to love you. I want you to love me for who I am, not for any external extremities or anything like that. You just love me because I'm simply Erica, and that's enough. I'm enough for you. And I want my partner to also for them to be enough for themselves as well. And they're enough for me. And you need to identify, what does love look like to you? How do you really want to feel? Not versus how do you want it to look in terms of how do you want it to look with other people? And I think if you take the time to identify these things prior to a relationship, or even in the relationship, really introducing this conversation to your partner, really listening to them too, because you have to understand if you act out how you feel, maybe your representation is not the best. And now your partner feels abused emotionally because you're not doing the best job as being a great communicator. So, being understanding, hearing them out, listening to actually hear, not listening to respond, right? There's a whole step process. And I think that, again, maybe this is not going to save everybody, but I think that this can help people. I think that this can really help a lot of couples and a lot of people who are single, because if you take the time to go deep within yourself to understand what is it that you really need in a relationship, what happened in your past, what did you see growing up, what is your expectations? Do you want me to be a woman that cooks all the time, or are you going to cook sometimes? Are you going to clean sometimes, or do you want me to do all the cleaning? Like, these things are very okay, trivial, but they're so important to the livelihood that you're going to live with this person. And for me, I want to know, if I'm cooking a big dinner for you, I want to know that you'll have the care to wash the dishes. That's important to me. Whereas other women, they don't care. Like, babe, I'm going to cook, I'm going to clean, I'm going to do everything. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't, I don't mind the cleaning, but it would be nice, right? Thoughtful, that if I just made you a whole meal, I did all of these things, and you're like, babe, I got the dishes tonight. I appreciate stuff like that. So you think about it, right? Because I appreciate things like that. Imagine me not getting that for 10 years. I'm going to be so annoyed. Like, really? You can't clean the damn dishes? Like, the hell? So, how hard are you willing to work to save your marriage, to save your relationship? How strong are you to leave the marriage or the relationship if it's really not supporting you, if it's really not promoting you? Promotion doesn't just happen with work. Promotion happens with our self-development as well. And how strong are you? What are you willing to do to make it work for yourself, to make it work for your partner, to be understanding? And I think that if we have these conversations in the right way, it can develop a stronger bond, or it can develop a bond that's strong but may have to be apart. So I think that if you do decide not to be together, it will be amicable. It won't be so harsh and hateful and negative and all of that stuff. So I think that it's really important to understand, what does a healthy relationship, a strong relationship, a loving relationship, what do these things mean to you? Because we can look up definitions all day, but love to me and love to you is different. Support to me, support to you is different. Financial success to me, financial success to you is different. We need to identify that with our partners. These are people that we chose to be in our lives. So if anything, they need to understand this the most, in addition to us. So that's my take. I think it's also important to assess your happiness. I think it's also to assess your joy. I think it's also important to see that when something is not working, it's time for a review. It's time for a review. All right, babe, something's not right. Instead of letting it fester and holding on to it, talk to your partner about it. Again, what does communication look like to you? Do you communicate whenever a problem arises, or do you communicate every 2 years? And what is your partner like? How do they communicate? How do they feel about love? How do they feel about working towards something? How do they feel about this? What are their day-to-day activities? Yeah. This is good. So when I get my man, we're going to listen to this episode together. We're going to listen to this episode together, just in case sis forgets, because, I told you I need this podcast just as much as you do. So we're in this together. But I really hope that after listening to this, it prompts you to do the investigation, and it prompts you to really identify what a healthy, loving relationship looks like to you and your partner. I truly think that if we are intentional with our background, if we are intentional with the idea of wanting to get better, if we are intentional with what we want and need, and also investigate why we want and need those things, that this can really help elevate or cultivate your relationships with others. And although I was talking about more of a romantic relationship in this particular episode, I think that this can really filter to a lot of our relationships with people in general, of understanding what we need and what does support look like to you versus your friend, or what does family look like to you versus your family members. So it's just really important to kind of understand that. And I think once we do, we have elevated ourselves. So I thought this conversation was great. Not to toot my own horn. I'm just saying, I would love to hear your feedback on this. What does a healthy relationship look like to you? You can contact me many ways, and we can talk about it. I would love to hear. You can also send me a voice message and let me know, what did you think about this episode? Are you married? Are you single? Are you divorced? Where are you? And how did you feel about it? I would love to know. And I cannot wait to talk to you guys again next week. Have a phenomenal... I don't know why I try to sing. I'm going to sing for y'all one day. But anyways, have a phenomenal day. Bye. I feel like we're connecting, so let's make sure we're connected. You can find Save the Good Girl on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. Did you know about the Save the Good Girl blog? Yes, there is a blog. Check out SaveTheGoodGirl.com to subscribe to the fabulous VIP email list and be the first to know about new podcast episodes, new blog posts, and giveaways. In addition to listening to Save the Good Girl on many platforms like Apple, Google, Spotify, and many more, you can also subscribe to the Save the Good Girl YouTube channel if YouTube is more of your thing. There are so many options to stay connected and be a part of the Save the Good Girl community. For all updates, or if you just want to contact me to say hello, ask me a question, or send me a comment, check out the contact section on SaveTheGoodGirl.com.